A hash map is a data structure that implements an associative array, also called a dictionary or a map, that basically maps keys to values. Like when we search for a word in a dictionary, we read the words looking for what we need the definition for, which in this case we can call the key, to retrieve the corresponding definition, which would be the value, or in the map look at the red pins, keys, to know about a location, value. With hash maps, the data is stored as key-value pairs, where values can be added, retrieved, and deleted using keys. And we prefer hash maps because of their efficiency, better performance, and flexibility. Now let's talk about the student list we looked at earlier. So this is a table, or you can go fancy and call it an associative array. So in schools there are thousands of students, so when we want to access a student's details, we would have to read or loop through the thousands of entries until we find the desired one. So that's why we assign roll numbers to students to make this process blazingly fast and efficient. In almost all modern programming languages, hash maps are already implemented, so you don't have to worry about writing hash functions, you just need to know how to use them. This video we will mainly talk about their implementation in JavaScript with some snippets of the same code in Python. Here's how you create a hash map in JavaScript and Python, and this here is just for reference. We will be actually learning it through a practice problem. This is how you retrieve, remove values, loop through the map, check existence of keys, but again, this is just for reference. We will learn it along with the practice problem. And let's get straight to it. Here, we are in LeetCode, and this is the problem we are going to solve called toSum. I'll provide the problem link in the description. First, let's understand the problem. Given an array of integers nums and an integer target, return indices of the two numbers such that they add up to target. You may assume that each input would have exactly one solution, and you may not use the same element twice. You can return the answer in any order. Let's understand it. We have an array of integers called nums and an integer called target. Let's label the indexes of the array for ease. We need to find what elements in the array add up to target. We have the value of target 9, and in this case 2 and 7 add up to our target, which is 9. Problem asks us to output the index of the numbers, which add up to target, which here is 0 and 1, or 1 and 0, order doesn't matter, as stated in the problem. Now first of all, let's get an idea of maps by outputting its values. Let's define a function called toSum. And it should have two parameters, the nums array and the integer target. Let's create a new map called map. This is how we create a map. Declare the name and write equal new map, parenthesis, followed by a semicolon. Let's write a for loop to loop through the array. Declare a variable I, initialize it to 0, and until I is less than the length of the nums array, we will increment. Now inside the loop, we will store values into our map. You can add elements to the map with the set method, which is simply written like any other JavaScript method. Write the property name, in this case map, dot, the method name, which here is set, followed by parenthesis, and in the parenthesis we will write what we want to store in it. We want to store the array element at the current index and its index. Let's output it to the console. This is our input for the function, and now let's just call it. Here we go. So what's happening here is the function is looping through the array, storing each array element and its index in the map. Now we are going to write the solution for this. Define the function toSum, create a map called map, write a for loop to iterate through the array, and use set method to add values to the map. Now let's create a variable called complement, which will store the value that if added to the current index gives us target. Now let's write an if statement to check if the complement of the current array element is present in the map, and if it is, then bingo, we got our answer and we are going to return the index of the elements. We use has method to check the existence of a key in a map. Same syntax like the previous one. Simply write map.has and in parenthesis complement to check if the complement is already in the array, followed by the return statement. Similarly, we use getMethod to retrieve a value from a map. If the complement is present, we are going to return the index of the current element and the index of the complement, or in other words, index of the elements that add up to target. So yay, that's it. We got our solution. Now let's run it. So this was what are hash maps? Let me know any other concept you would like a video on, and if you want a video covering other methods. Good day or evening, as I'm unable to ascertain your location for legal reasons.